Hello everybody, my name is Bats48 and today I'll be reviewing Child's Play 2, the hit sequel to Child's Play. Alex Vincent and Brad Dourif returned to reprise their characters, but Catherine Hicks and Chris Sarandon did not return. Although Chris was going to reprise his role, but his scenes were cut from the movie due to budgetary restraints, and Catherine didn't want to reprise her role, but she was on set constantly to see her husband Kevin Yeager, who operated the animatronic Chucky doll. Also, this movie is where David Krishner comes to produce the Child's Play movies. Now before we begin, spoilers if you've not seen this movie, go to the links in the description down below and buy this movie to watch, then come back to watch this video. Now let's get to the plot. The movie begins with Chucky's head being cleaned up to reveal the Terminator that lies within all dolls. Eventually Chucky's exoskeleton is cleaned up and he's given a fresh new look, which brings up the age old question: if a broom handle breaks and you replace it with a new handle, then you replace the brush part of the broom, is it still the same broom? We got to see Assistant Matson open the car door for Mr. Sullivan, the CEO of PlayPals. We then see him walking down a corridor where we find out that Andy's mother is in a mental hospital. We also find out the reason why they're rebuilding Chucky from scratch is to prove to stockholders that there is nothing wrong with the doll, so they can go back to making money. A couple of workers are working on rebuilding Chucky. The last thing they need to do with Chucky is insert his eyes. Instead of using their hands, they use a machine. Okay? The eyes get inserted and a weird supernatural power begins to electrocute the co-worker who has dumb luck. The worker gets launched through the air and through the glass screen. This is our first kill of the movie at just 6 minutes in. His cause of death is believing he can fly. After this, Mr. Sullivan orders his assistant Matson to cover this whole incident up and get rid of Chucky. Mr. Sullivan even goes as far to say this.
What do you want me to do with the doll? Stick it up your ass.
Meanwhile, Andy's in foster care where Phil and Joanne Simpson plan on adopting him. Phil has a few issues about Andy, but he eventually adopts Andy and takes him home with them. On the way home, Phil almost crashes into a PlayPal truck, delivering more than double dolls. They arrive home to this British looking house where there are strict rules to not touch the dolls or anything for that matter. Andy then heads upstairs where he meets his foster sister Kyle, who enjoys a good smoke. Andy then heads to his room where he sees all the wonderful toys and an 8-year-old dream until he discovers that inside the closet is a jump scare good guy doll. After this, Andy gets straight to the next rule, that there is no running in the house, and it's only a doll. Fun fact, the doll's name is a reference to Tom Holland, the director of the first movie. After work, Matson takes Chucky to his toy-filled car where he repeatedly smacks Chucky's face in with the boot of the car, then body slamming him onto the boot, before throwing him into the backseat of the car. Matson then phones his girlfriend where she tells him to get vodka. Whilst Matson is in the store, Chucky makes a phone call to the orphanage. The fact that he gets the information for Andy so damn quickly is unbelievable. Matson gets told no cash, no vodka. His car alarm then goes off, he gets in and drives away. That's when Chucky decides to pop out and hold him hostage with a water pistol. He forces Matson to take him into the Simpson household. Wait, that's not the Simpsons house. Oh wait, this isn't 742 Evergreen Terrace. They then pull into a car park where Chucky ties his arms behind his seat. Matson pleads for his life, but Chucky keeps toying with him. Chucky then shoots him with the water pistol. They have a good laugh, then Chucky disappears to then reappear with a plastic bag to suffocate Matson revs the engine while being suffocated. He then dies. This now makes him the second kill of the movie. His cause of death is lack of air. Chucky then breaks into the house to only stand and listen to Joanne humming. He stands there like a goddamn paedophile with an erection. Dirty bastard.
Shit. Hi, I'm Tommy. Shut up, you idiot. I'd like to be hugged. 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 I'd like to be hugged.
Hug this.
I'd like to.
Chucky caves Tommy's head in with the ornament, and they touched earlier on. He then buries Tommy in the garden, but apparently it's not raining and everything's now dry, like it was never raining. Also, Chucky thinks he's a comedic genius.
Eat dirt, Tommy.
In the morning, Phil finds the broken ornament and demands to know who broke it, from Andy and Kyle. Neither one of them own up to breaking it, so they get grounded. We then see Kyle and Andy working together in the basement, where he gets the chance to be cool and smoke a fag for the first time. Kyle stops him though. We then see Andy go upstairs to only hear Phil and Joanne talking about him. I don't know how the hell they didn't notice him open the door. I mean, come on. Phil has a perfect view of that door. Andy then goes to Chucky to tell him his feelings.
I hate you. Hi, I'm Tommy, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi ho, ha ha ha.
Chucky managed to trick Andy there, but Andy's still not convinced that this doll was not Chucky. Andy checks to see if Chucky has batteries to find that he does and presumes that he's safe. Later that night we see Chucky's into bondage when he has Andy bound and gagged. Chucky wants to play his new game, Hide the Soul. He starts his chant but gets interrupted when Kyle climbs up the tree outside his room. Kyle comes into the room and unties him. Andy starts shouting to kill Chucky. That's when Phil and Joanne enter the room and accuse Kyle of tying him up. Phil then takes Chucky downstairs where he throws him down into the basement. Chucky gets up and discovers that he has a nosebleed and realises that he's turning human rather quickly. We then cut to the next morning where we see Andy and Kyle heading to school. Andy gets onto the school bus and we see that none of the children like to share seats, especially with one kid straight up shoving Andy for no reason. Andy sits down at the back of the bus, not realising that Chucky is doing a Cape Fear and hanging onto the bottom of the bus. We see Chucky in the classroom looking through papers to find Andy's. I wonder what for. We see Andy in class listening to Miss Kettlewell reading Pinocchio. That's when the kid behind him decides to flick his ear. But what this kid doesn't know is that Andy's a straight A savage.
Repent.
Get lost, microchip.
Sort of a savage. Miss Kettlewell tells him to behave, the bell then rings, and the kids start to pack. While the kids pack, Miss Kettlewell checks over the papers on her desk, where she discovers what Chucky wrote in Andy's paper. Andy discovers Chucky just when Miss Kettlewell grabs him and gives him detention and throws Chucky into the cupboard and locks the door, and then leaves the classroom and locks it behind her, locking Andy in. Andy goes up to the cupboard where Chucky appears and scares Andy. Chucky then pleads for Andy to open the door, but Andy's like, peace, I'm out of here. He escapes through the window. Miss Kettlewell returns and presumes that Andy's a magician and somehow got into a locked closet. Miss Kettlewell looks around, even getting scared by a ball falling. As she's putting it back, Chucky jumps out and stabs her with an air pump. She runs out the cupboard and collapses over into a bunch of desks.
You've been very naughty, Miss Kettlewell.
The yardstick is a good guy's yardstick. That is something I had to freeze frame to see. Chucky then begins to smack Miss Kettlewell to death, making her our third kill of the movie. I like her death because as Chucky's hitting her, it zooms out from the window with each whack. Even when we're the furthest away from the window, we can still see the yardstick. Her cause of death is a good whack. Phil is asking Andy why he got in trouble, but Andy keeps saying Chucky did it. Joanne tells Phil the reason why Andy got in trouble, so Phil shows Andy that Chucky is in the same place. He left him last night. How the hell did Chucky get back so damn quick? He must be quicker than a cheesy poof in the hands of Cartman for crying out loud. Phil and Joanne are talking about sending Andy back to the foster home. They're speaking so loudly that Andy can hear them from his room. Kyle comes into his room to comfort him by giving him some advice from her own experiences. Andy says, otherwise though,
It doesn't matter. Wherever I go, Chucky will find me.
Later that night, Andy grabs an electric kitchen knife, then heads down to the basement to face off against Chucky, even checking the washing machine. Chucky gets the jump on Andy by doing what he did in the first movie. By that I mean attacking from above. Andy and Chucky struggle on the floor for a bit, but Andy manages to hurt him with the electric knife. Chucky runs away just before Phil walks in to see what Andy's doing. He tells Andy to put the knife down, but as he is walking down the steps, Chucky grabs a fish hook and grabs his ankle, causing him to fall through the banister of the staircase, where Chucky spits out another comedic line.
How's it hanging, Phil?
He then lets Phil go, causing him to break his neck. This now makes Phil our fourth kill of the movie. His cause of death is failing at headstands. Joanne and Kyle walk in, and Joanne rushes to Phil's corpse. Andy tries to go over to her, but she's convinced that Andy killed Phil, so she sends him back to the foster home. Before leaving, Andy tells Kyle that Chucky is still in the basement. Kyle grabs Chucky and throws him in the bin outside. She then sits in the swing and uncovers the broken corpse of Tommy. She then realises that Andy was telling the truth, goes back to the bin to then see that Chucky is no longer there. She heads inside and up to Joanne's room to warn her, but she soon discovers that Joanne has been killed. This makes Joanne our fifth kill of the movie, being killed off screen with a throat slit. Her cause of death is death by bondage. Chucky jumps out on Kyle, causing them to fight for a bit until Chucky eventually decks her and forces her to drive the orphanage to get Andy. They're pulled over for speed, where the cop seems to have a hard-on for good guy dolls. He asks Chucky to speak. Chucky has a nosebleed which destroys the cop's boner, and Kyle tells him that he's a different kind of good guy doll. The cop lets him go. Chucky orders Kyle to drive faster, and this pisses her off, so she slams on the brakes, sending Chucky flying at the windscreen. She then crashes into a pole, sending Chucky flying into a fence. She reverses and then tries to ram him with the car. Chucky dodges this and waits until she gets out of the car and jumps on her, where Chucky tells her that
Playtime's over.
We then see Andy at the orphanage where the fire alarm seems to go off. As he's coming down the staircase, he sees Kyle and Chucky and stops moving until Grace grabs him and drags him downstairs. She presumes Kyle set the fire alarm off and tells Kyle to get into the office. She also drags Andy in with her. Once inside, she takes Chucky off Kyle, and that's when Chucky decides to tell her how amazing he is. And then she becomes our sixth kill, the movie being stabbed by Chucky, her cause of death being stabbed by a disabled child. Kyle then grabs Andy and tries to run at the door with him until Chucky shuts the door, trapping Andy inside the room with him, where Chucky has a new game for him.
Okay, sport. We're gonna have a little game of Chucky Says. Chucky says, move your ass. Snap out of it! You act like you've never seen a dead body before.
Andy and Chucky climb into the back of a newspaper van. Kyle finally gets outside, realises she's too late. She then begins to chase the van. Kyle catches up to the van and manages to stop Chucky from saying his chant. Instead of using his words, he flips her off. She forces the driver to pull over and she sees Chucky and Andy running away from the van. She then gives chase to see that they're heading into Play Pals. She manages to get in before the shutter closes. We then see Andy and Chucky running around the millions of Good Guy dolls. I have to say, I feel sorry for the production team that made these. Chucky then does a repeat of the first movie again.
We're home.
Chucky begins his mumbo jumbo chant, even bringing in the classic storm. Chucky finishes the chant and realizes his chant failed because he spent too much time within the doll. Kyle drops boxes on him and then grabs Andy where they reassure each other's names.
Andy! Kyle!
They run around for a bit until they find the conveyor belt moving other dolls around the place. Kyle says to Andy that they need to climb up the rolling bars. Andy's face is like, ah, hell nah, bitch. When she says this, Kyle goes first, then Andy tries climbing up. But as he gets to the top, he slips and slides back down. During this scene, Andy doesn't look like he actually gives a fuck. Chucky appears at the bottom and starts climbing up. Andy eventually gets back to the top and Kyle shuts the gate. Just as Chucky reaches the top, his hand gets trapped under the gate. He then rips his hand off with some cool, gory practical effects. We then see him rip the handle of a knife off and shove his arm onto the blade, giving him an awesome upgrade. Chucky then expresses his love for children.
I hate kids.
Oh shit, got that one wrong. A bunch of the dolls get jammed on one of the machines, causing an alarm to go off. We then see an employee that apparently has been here the entire time. How the hell did he not notice them running around the place? The employee then goes out to fix the problem, but while he's fixing it, Chucky sneaks up and slashes him with his blade, knocking him over, which results in him getting his eyes gouged out by the machine, making him our 7th kill of the movie. His death is the most memorable of this entire movie. His cause of death is going blind. After this, we see that Chucky has found Andy and Kyle. They knock him over and a machine begins to staple hair to his balls. This is literally every guy's nightmare. Andy then sends him back up and into the machine, where we don't see what happens to Chucky, but we hear a lot of screaming. Andy hits the button, bringing him down what remains of Chucky, which seems to be only his legs. I wonder what happened to the upper body. Andy and Kyle begin to walk away, but we then see that there is blood under the machine, leading to a pulley. Kyle gets hit by the dead employee, which throws her onto a conveyor belt. Chucky then comes from behind and tries to kill Andy, but gets his blade stuck in a radiator. Andy pulls the lever, releasing the hot plastic all over Chucky. Andy then goes and saves Kyle from going into that machine. While Kyle is looking over Chucky's body, he jumps up and attacks her. She grabs the air hose and jams it into his mouth, making Chucky our 8th and final kill of the movie. His cause of death is keeping his thoughts to himself. Andy and Kyle then leave the factory and the credits roll. That was Child's Play 2 plot. So let's get into the review to see if the movie did better than the first movie or not. Now, for this review I'll be going over pros and cons. I know I didn't do this for the first movie, and the reason for that is I'm lazy, which explains why this review took so long to make. Yeah. Now to begin with, I'll be going over the pros, then the cons. So basically you get the good news first and then the bad news. So let's begin. The first pro is that there is gore. Not a lot, but there is, which is a big step forward from the first movie. Now, there wasn't really anything gory in the first movie, but it's nice to see the added gore for the second movie. The gore in this movie is fantastic. The best gory scene in this movie has to be Chucky ripping his hand off. The practical effects were fantastic for this scene. The second best gory scene would have to go to the employee getting his eyes gouged out. I almost picked the scene where Chucky goes into the machine and only his legs come out, but we didn't actually see what happened to him, so it has to go to the employee, simply because his death is the most rememberable. And I can't say rememberable. And his eyes got glazed out. The second pro is Alex Vincent's acting. He has certainly improved since the first movie, being that he doesn't flush out his lines anymore, which is a bonus for this movie, even though there's scenes where it seems like he doesn't actually care, but I'm still giving this pro to Alex Vincent. The third pro being that there is a bigger body count than the first movie, just by 2 kills as well, but the pro is that the kills are a lot better than the first movie. Yeah. The fourth pro is Chucky's on screen more, which is really good. Moving on. It's really good. I fucked that up. I fucked that line up. I'm keeping this in. Let's move on. The fifth pro is that there is comedy. Even though that some of it isn't actually funny, there is a few jokes that are funny in my opinion. Now let's go to the cons. The first con is that 1 minute it was raining and the next is dry as a piece of paper. Like, come on, why the hell have it raining to then have it be dry like 5 minutes after it? It doesn't make any sense. Just don't have it raining if you're just going to do that. Anyway, let's move on. The second con is copying from the first movie. You're probably wondering what I mean by that, and what I mean by it is that not all scenes are copied. For example, Chucky knocks Andy out while saying a joke. He did this in the first movie. This movie also copies the fake out deaths from the first movie as well, but leaving one fake out death, which is okay, I guess. And that's the pros and cons. Done. Overall, this movie did better than the first movie, with a better story and acting and even better kills. The animatronic Chucky doll is fantastic, plus the practical effects are also amazing. If you've never seen this movie, it's definitely worth the watch. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon for Child's Play 3. Yeah, this voice segment's still getting edited. But anyway, bye.